Hi, I have another educational video for you. This one is about earthworms. A lot of people have been out and fishing and hopefully going out and finding some of your own worms outside to do that with. There are 6,000 different kinds of earthworms. This one came from the gas station where we buy bait, the red wigglers. Big reds or red wigglers, and you can see he's got a little bit different coloration than this earthworm that was just found outside. He is a lot more red, and he has a little bit more banding on all of those little parts that he has there. There are two ends to the worm. There is a head and there is a tail. And even though they don't have eyes on their head end, they can sense light and vibration. So if you've ever been out at night with your flashlight and you flash the light on them and they go away from you, that's how they could tell that you were there. They could feel the vibration of your footsteps, and they also could sense the light from your flashlight. They do not have lungs, so you have to keep their skin wet because they do breathe through their skin. So if their skin starts to dry out, then they die, and that's why they come up to the surface when it has rained, because they need their skin not to be so wet or they will drown. And we need to make sure that if we are handling the worms that we're using for fishing and we want them to live, if we're going to use those same worms for the next couple of times that we go, we don't want to have hand sanitizer, bug spray, lotion, grease, salt, food, those kinds of things on our hands, because they go right into their skin. They have 4 hearts. No, 5. I thought it was 4. I just looked up my facts to make sure I was right. There are 5 hearts. And for that reason, you cannot just take a worm and rip it in half and make 2 worms, as most of you probably thought. That's what I always thought growing up too. If you do that, they do have the ability to regenerate a new tail, but they cannot regenerate all 5 of those hearts and the reproductive organs that are up here and the upper part of their digestive system. So the head end will most likely live, but the tail end will most likely die. So if you have to rip your worm in half to put it onto your hook, because most of the time a full worm, this size is going to be too big. So if you have to rip it in half, put the tail end on your hook to use for fishing, because the head end you're putting back in your container has a better chance of living. So how do you, if you can't rip them in half and get new ones, how do you get new little baby ones? Well, it's easier to see on these night crawlers, called that because they do come to the surface and reproduce at night, where most of the others are reproducing deeper in the soil. They have this band on them that, so of course, I'm not finding one that has one. It's easy to see. They have a band called a clitellum that is a little bit different color, a little bit easier to see in that one there. A little bit different color here, a little bit different texture, and in that area, that is where they have both the male and the female parts. They are hermaphroditic. So what's going to happen when it is time to mate is one worm's going to line up this way with the head, with the head headed that way, and this one's going to line up with the head going this way, and then they will just trade fertilizer. So the sperm will go from one to the other, and each of them will make a little, like a slime packet that holds on to that fertilizer. And as the worm then crawls, as this one is doing, if they would crawl away from each other, then that little packet slides down their body, goes right past the female organs where it picks up the egg, and as that slime packet goes all the way to the end of their body, then it slides off the end, leaving these little cocoons. They kind of look like onions to me. They are a beige color, and they have a little, like almost a little tail thing on one end where it let go of the worm itself. They're very fluid filled. The stuff that's inside there, that slime, is very much like the egg white from the chicken eggs that we eat. And if these dry out, they will die. And those came right out of this container that came from the gas station where you buy bait. That was in the refrigerator. And so when you're all done using your worms, don't just throw this in the trash, because you obviously will have some little babies in there sometimes. So if you're not going to go fishing again, you can dump it into your flower pots or something around. The red wigglers actually are from Europe. They have the same latitude as us, and so they have the same weather. So things that survive in Europe survive over here. And these actually kind of are an invasive species now, as fishermen let their bait out or throw the dirt onto the ground. These are not native to Ohio, but they are everywhere now. They're very good decomposers, but sometimes that can be a bad thing. They're eating up so much of the stuff that's on the leaf litter on the forest floor that it's sometimes not there for the native guys that we have here. Not so much of a problem around here, but it is something that has been noticed. So if you're going to dump this dirt anywhere, dump it into another worm bin, or into your composting bin, or into your flower pots. So happy fishing, and hope you know a little bit more about worms.
Okay, Mom, I made this video for you because I figured you would want to show your students this or something. So I'm catching worms. Let's see if I can find some. Hang on, I'll just show you so you could show your kids what they're doing right here. There's 2 worms. Here, let's see if I can move it without disturbing them. It's 2 worms, one coming out of this hole, one coming out of the hole together. And they're coming together, and it must be the good weather or something. But they're mating. There's 2 coming together. I figured you'd want to show your students that. But that's about it.